Look around the space you are in right now. Not with the eyes you normally use, the ones that have learned to stop seeing the pile on the chair, the drawer that will not close properly, the shelf where things go to be forgotten. Look with fresh eyes, honestly. How much of what surrounds you do you actually love? How much of it brings you genuine pleasure when you look at it, touch it, use it? And how much of it is simply there, accumulated, tolerated, half forgotten because getting rid of it felt like too much effort, or too much guilt, or too much of something you could not quite name? Marie Kondo has spent the majority of her life thinking about this question. She began thinking about storage systems at the age of 5. She discovered her passion for discarding as a teenager. By the time she wrote this book, she had worked with hundreds of clients across Japan, and not a single one of them had ever reverted to clutter after completing her method. Not one. The life-changing magic of tidying up is not a book about cleaning. It's not a book about minimalism or interior design or getting organized in the conventional sense. It's a book about the relationship between the spaces we live in and the lives we are actually living, and about what becomes possible when you bring those two things into alignment. By the end of today's summary, you will understand not just how the KonMari method works, but why it works, and why everything you have tried before probably didn't. Let us begin.
Before Kondo tells you what to do, she spends considerable time telling you what not to do. And this, it turns out, is one of the most valuable parts of the book. Because most of us have tried some version of tidying before, and most of us have ended up back where we started. Kondo has tried everything too. She spent years testing every method, every system, every approach that other organizing experts recommended. And she arrived at a clear conclusion. Almost all of them fail, and they fail for the same fundamental reason. They do not go far enough. They ask you to do a little at a time, to make small changes gradually, to ease into it comfortably. And that comfort is precisely what prevents any lasting change from happening. Does it still sound too good to be true? If your idea of tidying is getting rid of one unnecessary item a day, or cleaning up your room a little at a time, then you are right, it won't have much effect on your life. She is particularly sharp on the subject of tidying by location, the common approach of doing one room at a time, finishing it, then moving to the next. This, she says, is a fatal mistake. Why? Because your possessions are not organized by room. Your winter coat might be in the bedroom wardrobe, the hallway cupboard, and a box under the bed simultaneously. When you tidy by location, you never actually confront how much of any one category you own. You just move things around. She is equally dismissive of most storage solutions, the boxes, dividers, baskets, and organizing systems that fill entire sections of home goods shops. Her verdict is bracingly direct. Those storage solutions are really just prisons within which to bury possessions that spark no joy. The problem, she argues, is never a lack of storage, it's an excess of stuff, and no amount of clever organization can fix that because you're solving the wrong problem. So why do we accumulate so much in the first place? Kondo identifies two root causes that underlie almost all clutter. The first is attachment to the past, holding on to things because of who we were, or what we experienced, or who gave them to us, even when those things no longer serve who we are now. The second is fear of the future, stockpiling things we might need one day, creating a physical buffer against an imagined scarcity that never quite arrives. When we really delve into the reasons for why we can't let something go, there are only two: an attachment to the past or a fear for the future. The cure for both, she will argue, is the same: learning to be fully present with what you actually love and actually need right now.
Here is the thing that most people miss about Marie Kondo. They hear, "Does it spark joy?" and they think she's offering a decluttering tip, the useful heuristic for sorting through old clothes. She's offering something much larger than that. The KonMari method I describe in this book is not a mere set of rules on how to sort, organize, and put things away. It is a guide to acquiring the right mindset for creating order and becoming a tidy person. The mindset shift she's asking for is this: stop thinking about what you want to get rid of and start thinking about what you want to keep. That inversion sounds small. It is not. It changes the entire emotional experience of the process. Most decluttering approaches put you in an adversarial relationship with your possessions. You're interrogating each item. Do I really need this? Can I justify keeping it? Have I used it recently enough? This is exhausting, guilt-inducing, and ultimately ineffective because you're focused on loss, and the instinct to avoid loss is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. Kondo flips this entirely. Instead of asking what to throw away, she asks what to keep. Not, is there a reason to discard it, but does this bring me joy? That shift moves you out of defense and into desire. You're not giving things up, you're selecting what you love and creating a home that contains only that. I came to the conclusion that the best way to choose what to keep and what to throw away is to take each item in one's hand and ask, does this spark joy? If it does, keep it. If not, dispose of it. It's worth noting that Kondo uses a range of language for this feeling, beyond just spark joy. She also talks about things that inspire joy, that thrill you with pleasure when you touch them, that speak to your heart, that move you. The feeling she's pointing at is not complicated. It's the feeling of genuine, uncomplicated pleasure in the presence of something you love. You already know this feeling. You felt it when you put on a piece of clothing that fits perfectly and makes you feel exactly like yourself. You felt it looking at an object that reminds you of something genuinely good. The question simply is, why are you surrounding yourself with so many things that do not produce that feeling, when you could be surrounded only with things that do?
Underlying the entire Kondo method is a philosophy that is distinctly Japanese and that takes some people by surprise. Marie Kondo genuinely believes that your home is a sacred space, not metaphorically. She means that your home has an energy, that your possessions have a kind of life to them, and that the act of tidying is, at its deepest level, the act of restoring harmony between you, your belongings, and the space you share. One theme underlying my method of tidying is transforming the home into a sacred space, a power spot filled with pure energy. She draws on Japanese concepts of animism, the ancient belief that objects, like living beings, have their own spirit and energy. She began treating her belongings as if they were alive when she was a teenager. She greets her home when she returns to it. She thanks her clothes for their service before she lets them go. For readers from a more Western, secular tradition, this can feel a little unusual. But Kondo is careful to point out that you do not need to share her specific beliefs for the method to work. The underlying logic is practical as much as spiritual. When you approach your possessions with genuine attention and gratitude, rather than indifference or guilt, the whole process of sorting through them becomes different, less anxious, more deliberate, more honest. She also draws on the principles of feng shui, the idea that the arrangement of a space affects the energy flowing through it, and that clutter disrupts that flow in ways that affect your mood, your focus, and your sense of well-being, whether or not you consciously notice it. By eliminating excess visual information that doesn't inspire joy, you can make your space much more peaceful and comfortable. This connects to something that has been well documented in environmental psychology. The spaces we inhabit shape our mental states in ways we largely underestimate. A cluttered environment produces a subtly cluttered mind, more distracted, more anxious, more depleted by the constant low-level effort of navigating visual noise. A calm, ordered space does the opposite. Kondo is not asking you to become a minimalist. She is not asking you to own less for the sake of owning less. She is asking you to own intentionally, to make sure that everything around you is something you have chosen, something you love, something that earns its place in your sanctuary. Now we arrive at the practical heart of the book, the KonMari Method itself. The method has two essential actions in a specific order. First, discard, then organize. Kondo is emphatic that these must happen sequentially, never simultaneously, and that discarding always comes first. Two essential actions, discarding and deciding where to store things. Of the two, discarding must come first. The reason this order matters: if you start organizing before you have finished discarding, you are organizing things you will later decide to get rid of. You are wasting effort and, more importantly, you're making the process feel endless because you're always doing both things at once and never finishing either. The second key principle: tidy up completely, all at once, in the shortest time possible. Not a drawer a day, not a room a weekend, but a complete, total, one-time transformation of your entire home. Kondo calls this approach ikimi, the Japanese phrase for in one go. If you tidy up in one shot rather than little by little, you can dramatically change your mindset. Why is this so important? Because the dramatic transformation of your environment produces a dramatic shift in how you feel about it. When you change your space completely, when you go from clutter to clarity in a matter of days rather than months, the impact is visceral enough and you genuinely do not want to go back. The change is not incremental, it is a before and after. And that experience rewires your relationship to your possessions in a way that slow, gradual tidying never does. The method works by category, not by location, and the categories must be addressed in a specific sequence, from easiest to hardest. Clothes first, then books, then papers, then miscellaneous items, what Kondo calls komono, and finally, last of all, mementos and sentimental objects. This order is carefully designed. Clothes are the best starting category because most people have a strong, immediate sense of what they love to wear and what they wear only out of obligation or guilt. It's a relatively low-stakes category in emotional terms. Starting here builds confidence and momentum. Mementos come last because they're the most emotionally complex category, the one most likely to derail the process if confronted too early, before your joy-sensing instinct is fully calibrated. For each category, the method is the same. Gather every single item of that category from everywhere in your home, every room, every cupboard, every hidden corner, and place it all in one large pile. The pile is important. Seeing the full quantity of what you own in any category all at once often produces a genuine shock that motivates the process. Then, pick up each item individually. Hold it in your hands. Pay attention to what your body tells you when you touch it. Does something lift in you? A small brightening? A sense of pleasure? That's your signal to keep it. Does something stay flat, or feel heavy, or produce a mild sense of obligation? That's your signal to let it go. The criterion is, of course, whether or not it gives you a thrill of pleasure when you touch it. Before releasing anything, Kondo recommends thanking it, not as an empty ritual, but as a genuine acknowledgement that the object served a purpose. It kept you warm, it made you feel confident at a particular moment, it carried an important memory, and that its departure from your life does not erase that service. This practice of gratitude transforms discarding from a guilty act into a gracious one.
Once you have completed the discarding process, and Kondo estimates this typically reduces a person's possessions to between a quarter and a third of what they started with, organizing becomes almost effortless. there is simply much less to deal with. The guiding principle for storage is equally simple. Store all items of the same type in the same place and never scatter storage across multiple locations. I have only two rules. Store all items of the same type in the same place and don't scatter storage space. This sounds almost too simple, but consider how most homes are actually organized. Books in the bedroom, more books in the living room, more books in a box in the attic. Stationery in the kitchen drawer, more stationery in the desk, more stationery in a bag somewhere. When things are scattered, you can never know how much you actually own, and you can never be sure whether you have what you need, which is why people unconsciously stockpile. They buy things they already have because they cannot find what they have. Centralizing storage by category fixes this completely. You always know where things are, you always know exactly how much you have, and putting things away requires no decision-making. Everything has a home, and you simply return it there. Kondo also offers a counterintuitive observation about the goal of good storage. Most people think good storage makes things easy to access. Kondo says good storage makes things easy to put away. The difference is significant. Things that are easy to get out but laborious to return will gradually migrate out of their homes and accumulate on surfaces. Things that take 3 seconds to put back where they belong will stay tidy because the barrier to returning them is negligible. Clutter is caused by a failure to return things to where they belong. Therefore, storage should reduce the effort needed to put things away, not the effort needed to get them out. One of her most practical suggestions for clothing storage is vertical folding, standing clothes upright in drawers rather than stacking them in layers. This means you can see every item of clothing at a glance, nothing gets buried, and you stop gravitating always to the same few items on top while ignoring everything underneath. The goal of all storage, ultimately, is that you can see at a glance exactly what you own, exactly where it is, and exactly how much of it there is. When you have achieved that, the maintenance of order becomes almost automatic, not because you have developed a new habit, but because the environment itself is now so clear and simple that disorder feels immediately obvious and easily corrected.
Here is the claim that gives the book its title, and it is the claim that many people find hardest to believe before they try the method, and most surprising after. Tidying your home changes your life. Not metaphorically, not as a side effect, as a direct, documented, repeatedly observed consequence. Kondo has watched it happen with client after client. People who complete the KonMari Method do not merely end up with tidier homes, they end up with different lives. A dramatic reorganization of the home corresponds to dramatic changes in lifestyle and perspective. It is life-transforming. What kinds of changes? Kondo describes clients who leave jobs that were not right for them shortly after tidying. Clients whose relationships shift, some strengthening, some ending, because the process of deciding what they really love clarified what they actually want and who they actually are. Clients whose eating habits change, their bodies change, their ambitions change. She also notes a fascinating pattern. After completing the process, many clients find that their desire for things decreases. They have spent days handling every possession they own, consciously deciding what genuinely brings them joy, and the experience recalibrates their whole relation to acquiring things. The compulsive shopping impulse that drove the original accumulation tends to diminish significantly.
Once they selected and kept only those things that they really loved, they felt that they had everything they needed. Kondo calls the moment when this feeling settles in the just right click point, that quiet, profound sense of having exactly enough. Not minimalist deprivation, not overwhelming abundance, just enough, all of it loved, all of it chosen. Why does physical tidying produce these psychological effects? Kondo's explanation is philosophical as much as practical. She believes that our possessions tell the story of our decisions. Every object in our home is a record of a choice we made at some point for some reason that may or may not still reflect who we are. When we go through everything and consciously choose what stays and what goes, we are not just sorting objects, we are taking stock of ourselves. We are editing the story of our life down to the version we actually want to be living. Although we can get to know ourselves better by sitting down and analyzing our characteristics, I believe that tidying is the best way. After all, our possessions very accurately relate the history of the decisions we have made in life. In this sense, the KonMari method is not really about tidying at all. Tidying is the tool. What it's actually about is clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes when you have faced every object you own, made a conscious choice about it, and arranged what remains in a way that reflects exactly who you are and what you love. And once you have that clarity in your physical space, it tends to spread into your time, your relationships, your work, your sense of what you want from the days ahead. Marie Kondo ends her book with a line that has stayed with me longer than almost anything else in it. Life truly begins after you have put your house in order. That is a large claim from a small book about folding clothes. But the more you sit with the philosophy underneath the method, the idea that your home is a sanctuary, that your possessions are alive with meaning, that the act of choosing what to keep is also the act of choosing who to be, the more that claim starts to feel not like an exaggeration, but a plain statement of fact. Most of us are living in spaces that were not fully chosen. They accumulated. Life happened, things arrived, drawers filled, surfaces disappeared under layers of the tolerated and the forgotten. And we adapted to it, the way we adapt to anything, by simply stopping seeing it. What Kondo offers is the chance to see it again, to hold every object you own, ask it a simple question, and rebuild your home, and by extension your life, around only honest answers. The process is not effortless. It takes time, attention, and a willingness to be honest about what you love and what you have simply been carrying out of habit or guilt. But it is, she insists, a one-time task, not a lifelong discipline, a celebration, a single, thorough, joyful reckoning with everything you own, after which the maintenance more or less takes care of itself, because everything has a home, everything earns its place, and the environment itself now supports the life you want to live. I can think of no greater happiness in life than to be surrounded only by the things I love. If this summary resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Tell us, what is the one category in your home that most needs the KonMari treatment? We read every one. Until next time, stay blessed and have a great life.